tomorrow is yours. You must get strategically positioned, you must reposition yourself to be ready to take on leadership. When shall we integrate? For this friend of mine who's saying these borders must go. So since these leaders are not doing it, that's why young people need to come with that vision and make sure they go.
I have a belief that most of you are here today are going to do the same thing the African leaders are doing today. You can see that even now leaders in Africa are now fearing competition. If competition is the benchmark, is the real reason why democracy exists, why are you fearing it?
So the only way you can approach this is not through massage. No, they do massage in a sauna. The only way you can approach this and survive the Americans is to learn military.
What they call a man is the legacy you are leaving behind. Now, what kind of legacy are these African leaders are going to leave behind?
Honorable Furukol has also served in the past as a minister in the Ugandan government. You were a deputy minister water and education. Yes, and he also has served as an elected member of parliament, and is a former deputy director of UNICEF in charge of East and Southern Africa. I want to say that in the interest of time, I stop at that. The rest I refer to the internet. So let's welcome again Furukol with a big hand clap. Next, I will introduce our dear professor, Professor Mahmoud Mamdan. Professor Mamdan is a former director of the Institute of African Studies at Columbia University. I'm sure many of you know Columbia University, you have been there. Yes. Okay, and also is a former director of the Center for African Studies at the University of Cape Town. Currently, he is the director of Makerere Institute of Social Research, and I guess some of us should be his students, either currently or before. I think you know that he is ranked among the top 10 intellectuals in the whole world. He is a great author and a political commentator. He is also a Harvard-level professor of government at the School of International and Public Affairs, and is also a professor of anthropology, political science and African studies at Columbia University. With us also is a Professor Edward Kakonge. We are very privileged to have professors tonight. Professor Edward Kakonge is a retired professor of Makerere and other universities. He is a science professor of biochemistry. He is a leader, as having been a former minister in many portfolios. So, since the audience knows, then I can say, and EPC, the list goes on. So, Professor, you are welcome. Let's clap for you. We are also with Dr. James Kimera. He's a lecturer at Makerere University. He is also executive director of Calm Africa, helping the needy citizens, and he's a wonderful leader who has been helping us to improve here and there in this club. We are very privileged to have you, Dr. Kimera. Let's also welcome you with a big hand clap. Dear members, we are assessing the significance of the recent US African Leaders Summit in Africa. I will not preempt the discussion, although I can't really claim to be an expert on this subject, but I know that it is an extremely important subject because our relations with the rest of the world, you know, has either been to the best or average, and therefore it's important that we understand it very well. And then we see how we position ourselves in the world geopolitical and other interests. Because the world is about interests, so what is the interest of Africa? And how is ourselves? And in this specific case, what does it mean for us? We also know that there have been other summits with Africa, India, China. It's interesting, Dr. Chibera, that one continent keeps meeting with one country. The whole continent to meet one country. Yes. But on that note, I would like to request Dr. Chibera tell us how he sees this and what does it mean. And also, since the subject is assessing, it does not limit us only the significance to Africa, but rather we can as well put it in terms of the interests of other global players.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I also feel highly privileged and honored to have been offered this opportunity to share this platform with great sons of Africa. I joined Makerere University in 1986. And the Honorable David Borokor was assistant lecturer in the Department of Social Work and Social Administration. So I had the privilege to be taught by you, Honorable. So on this topic, I'm just going to make just a few comments and then ask some questions to guide our discussion. One, on the surface, this summit seemed to be good and meant to promote meaningful trade between Africa and America. That's my first comment. My second comment, our African leaders had a special opportunity to meet in America and interact with their fellow African leaders, and at the same time also had an opportunity to interface with the great leaders of the great nation called America. My third comment is on what our dear president said a few days ago, I think yesterday, when he met the American ambassador. He said, yeah, the summit was good, but African leaders shouldn't think that America will provide every solution to our problems. To me, he was warning Africans not to think that every time we have problems, we should run to America. That America does not have the panacea to solve the African problem. So, according to him, this summit was good, and it means good for Africa. So I'm waiting to hear your comments on that. But I have just questions. I'm not going to discuss Mr. Chairman. Mine are just questions, and the professors will help me to answer some of these questions. I beg you to ask these questions while I'm seated. I feel like I'm catching up with age. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the first question is, why was this summit? Why was the summit? And why was it organized at this particular time in our history? Two, why was this summit? Why was the summit? And why was it organized at this particular time in our history? Two, who initiated the summit? Whose idea was this summit? And who set the pace? Did our leaders, number three, did our leaders discuss on equal balance? Who set the agenda of the summit? And, ladies and gentlemen, who's to benefit from the discussions of this summit? African leaders or African people? When are we likely to see the benefits of the summit? How long shall we take to see the manifestation of these good ideas deliberated on in the summit? I want to know, what is the difference between this summit, which excited our leaders, and the AGOA? Is it something new from AGOA? African growth opportunity something? Does American invite as a continent, did America as a country ever invited other leaders from other continents to discuss trade the way they did with African leaders? Is America serious and determined to using trade as a means or an instrument to sustainably develop Africa? What guarantee do we have that this very summit will bear results so that it is not always seen as a waste of time and other valuable resources? Were we given the opportunity as Africans to participate in this forum? What I mean, did our parents, did our parliaments and even African parliament get an opportunity to discuss, to factor into this great summit? And finally, Mr. Chairman, is time sufficient to meaningfully assess the significance or impact of this summit? Is time sufficient to meaningfully assess the significance or impact of the summit? Are we not likely to be doing a political or academic gymnastics? Those are my questions. You can follow them comments. I beg you to stop here and listen to our great leader.
Thank you very much. We are moving very quickly so that this discussion reaches everybody. Actually, when I was Minister of Local Government, I took advantage of the and I got the Commission of Local Government and the ideas of the city and so on. But back to the issue. First of all, we are not very optimistic that the summit will bring anything. Because as you remember, there are some leaders who are left out. Some were selected leaders. Not all the leaders who should have been there. But what's more fundamental? This summit comes after the summit of African leaders in China, and then the summit of African leaders in India, and so on. I don't know whether America was doing things as their initiative, or they wanted to catch up with China and India. Particularly China. Because China is now a very, very powerful economic country. And actually it is a threat. Many countries which thought themselves are very developed, economically developed. Of course China has its own problem. Recently I was told that China has 65 million apartments which are not occupied. 65 million. So some of the elaborate skyscrapers, many of them are empty. So I don't know. I don't know the strategy about that. Now this meeting, I really would want you to take an opportunity to interact with Professor Magdad. For me, I'm here and we have interacted so many times before. But I think for this opportunity, because of that, we should maximize it. And we have already seen it's a great thing to do. And for him, it's not just to impress anybody. And he's a very great author. He has written many, many books. So, this is an opportunity for you to interact with the great mind. As you have seen, he was professor here in Makerere, professor abroad. Actually, so, I'm not going to address this subject. I want to introduce this great mind so that you can have an opportunity to interact with him. For me, we'll have another time like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I now take the honor to invite the Honorable Deputy Comrades.
I think for me, it's markets, it's business deals, and natural resources. So again, natural resources comes at the center. Because there are now new packages, you don't have to control a territory. You can use your multinationals, you can use new packages like digitalization. There's quite a lot of packages, software in the system now that no longer require that type of scramble. So that's significant. Because what is it? It's about capturing markets. It's about striking those business deals. It's about the natural resources in Africa to be pumped into the economic arteries of China, of the United States, of Europe, and so forth. But what's also new is that there are new entrants who were not as active that time as they are now. These are the BRICS in terms of Brazil, in terms of India, in terms of, you know what I'm talking about. So these are also joining. And therefore, if you are to look ahead and do a prognosis, so, and when you look at the China economy, is it going to overtake the United States economy by the end of this year or in the next few, in terms of sheer size and so forth, or not yet? So are we going to still a Western Europe, America-led world? What will that world be? Or are we about to see a China-led world? Okay. Thirdly, or are we going to see power dissipated? So there is no clear leader because either the BRICS, the Europeans and Americans, and China. So there is going to be a kind of a stalemate of sorts. So what kind of world would that be in terms of politics, in terms of economy, in terms of science and technology and so forth? These are all issues to look ahead. But get back to the summit. What happened in the summit? Here is Africa brought up together, and Africa is not one collective voice. Politically, there are differences. Geographically, economically, in many ways that you can look at. So it is not an homogeneous space or set of systems and markets, and therefore different procedures. If you are looking for business deals, if you are seeking for investment opportunities, different legal regimes and different histories also and experiences. But even the typology of leaders in control are different. Okay, there are those who are turning this into real opportunities for the people. There are those who are turning these into opportunities for themselves and their cronies and their families, and not necessarily for the entire population. So there are those in the continent who don't even know what's taking place before they can even participate. There are those who are being excluded from economic activities in their own countries. So let alone, what does the summit mean for that type of people of Africa? And of course, I would like you more to focus then on the youth, because in the summit, there are some catchphrases that were used. I think Obama said, "Rising Africa." So they are looking at where there is a runaway economic progress. He called it runaway. So I think the way the economy is growing here, in terms of percentage points, seems to be the place to be, and the place to put your money. And then there are those who say, there was one leader who referred to Africa as Africa is no longer a sleeping giant. It is now an giant. So these were the ones that were used in the summit. And there were a lot of platitudes. Africa was praised. And so when somebody praises you, you have also to be, yes, you smile, pat on the back, but you must also pinch yourself and remind yourself who you are, where you're coming from, where you're going. Therefore say, what is in this thing for me? What's in this thing for those who are praising? So there's definitely, there was a lot of emphasis on partnership. And therefore, it's not a master-sub relationship that America was looking at. It was packaged that it is about partners, being partnering and partnership. So when you have a partnership deed, I think maybe Professor will have to double-click and open that folder. What does it mean in terms of interest? I think it's important to focus that Africa is young, and that's one of the things which came through the meeting, and that the population now, even in less than 3 decades, so about 41% of the entire labor force in the world is likely to be in Africa. And so again, when you look at now, 200 million people in Africa are below 30 years, and so forth. So when you come down to Uganda, it's even 78%, because we're the second youngest population in Africa. So it's a need. So what does it mean for young people, this summit? And of course, it's about the future. The summit talks so much about the future. The future, we know, is never inherited from our forefathers. The future is borrowed from our children. Other continents have examined us, they have drawn their strategy. But as Africa also examines those other people and come out with this strategy. So I invite you to read the Africa Vision 2063, the AU. Thank you very much, and may God.
So we have directly taken to the middle ranks, and we also thank you back for the good comments. This is the good moment to invite our dear Professor Mahmoud Mamdani to speak. Dear Professor. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. It led to the militarization of every country, with the US arming one side and the USSR arming another side. You can say that the cost of the Cold War was paid by Africa, Central America, and by the Middle East. But if you just look at what happened in Angola, what happened in Mozambique, what happened in South Africa, what happened in Ethiopia, Somalia, if you go around the continent, you will understand that the Cold War turned into hot conflict in which victims were Africans. The price was paid by Africa, even though the war was said to be fought between the US and the USSR. Africans learned something from that experience. It seems to me that the main thing African leaders learned from that experience was next time
not to choose sides. In the Cold War, Africans chose sides. Every African government would be classified as either pro-US or pro-Soviet. And every pro-Soviet government called itself pro-Soviet. And every pro-US government was said to be Republican. But Africans chose sides. And by choosing sides, they opened themselves up to becoming the ground on which the war was fought. This time, you can see that African leaders are trying to play both sides. They have relations with the US, they have relations with China. There's hardly any government which has relations with only one side. Or let me put it this way. The governments which have relations with only one side are governments who have been boycotted by the other side, sanctioned by the other side. They have not done it willingly. It's been forced on them. Zimbabwe, for example. So that's what Africans have done. You can see Uganda, very close relations with the US. Mainly in the military field. If you look at the last few months, look at the controversy over the anti-gay bill and all the pronouncements from the US, the threat to cut aid, the actual cutting of some of the aid, threats to do more. Only one thing was never covered: military and the military command. In fact, I remember one day opening the newspaper. The same paper had two stories. One story was about the US cutting aid. The other story was about the US sending military aid, sending a particular plane. And a newspaperman asked the American ambassador, but why are you cutting aid? How can you supply this military aid? And the ambassador's response was, oh well, this military aid is supposed to be to fight Joseph Kony. That is to protect the human rights of Ugandans. Human rights is also a language. There are many languages that can be used to justify an action. In this instance, human rights is being used as a language to justify a particular policy which highlights the cutting of non-military assistance, but remains silent about the cutting of military assistance. I think it leads us to a larger issue. If we look at the summit, this summit is not about a trade competition between the US and China. It's not. The US lost a trade war with China some time ago. China is already the major trading partner of Africa. China is not just threatening US trade dominance in Africa. The dominant trading partner of Africa is China. This summit is about something else. This summit should give us an idea that the US has decided to shift the battleground. Because the US acknowledges that if the battleground remains the economy, it has lost. It wants to shift the battleground militarily. The American strategy is very clear. It is to militarize the African continent. And it is to militarize the resolution of conflicts in the African continent. It is to structure American aid to Africa increasingly as military aid. How many $1 billion were announced by the US government as military aid to build up local military forces in different African countries? Go back and look at the figures. The total figure they announced includes both military and economic. But it also includes both private and state funding. In other words, grants by American corporations, by private corporations. But it also includes, in some cases, like the electrification of the African continent, it includes Swedish funding. It's not just restricted to America. They tried to put together everything to have the biggest possible figure. But if you look at funding from the American state, it is mainly military. That's the real danger for us. The real danger for us is that it will first militarize governments in Africa. It will shift the power from civilian leaders to military leaders. Danger for us, secondly, is that it will militarize the resolution of conflicts in Africa. It is clear. The US does not have any contribution to make towards political resolution of conflicts. The US response to conflict is sanctions, and it's a military response after sanctions. If Africa is going to develop, minimum basic condition is peace. Peace. A peaceful resolution of conflict. Not even democracy, peace first. Peace is the first condition. And this is a threat. It's a potential threat, but a very real one. So my suggestion is that we keep that in mind as we think.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think the issues are getting more complicated. Yes, I think we have been told some very unique facts or opinions, but let us debate. So I will now shift to this side.
On and about Africa, it will never exist, and it can never exist if we are still Ugandan, Cameroonian, or even democratic republics or something. That is not Africa. That cannot be Africa. And you can never stand up to talk for an Africa you are not, and you don't own. So all that can happen is to go to more tea parties and talking shops about everything African, about an Africa that is owned by an Argentinian. I think we now know enough to say enough of these borders. I think we have flown enough air to go overseas, to begin walking to the neighbor next door, to talk our way out of the real danger that is facing Africa today. I am calling for a total shutdown of Africa. We need nobody. Everybody needs us. Until we awaken to this realization, we are still singing the same old song. Uhuru. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm called Enos Kanisje, and I'm privileged to be here today. According to the topic we are discussing today, the way I see issues between America and other countries, like Professor has told us, is something to do with militarization of these countries. And if you look at American approach, the way it lives is that way of having harsh rules. And I see a problem with Uganda here. The problem we are going to face is, if you follow this kind of leadership, where a nation believes in attacking other countries, then when you are attacking such countries, like you support both sides, you find a given country supporting the government, then supporting the rebels. That is a problem now. Then you believe that by conquering other neighboring countries is how you're going to strengthen yourself. You people never joke with a gun. Never, never, never joke with a gun. And I see the president of Uganda doing almost the same approach of leadership like America does. And this is very dangerous for our country. Like, you believe that other countries are becoming strong, especially China, then America comes in to think that by coming to Africa, you say you've got a conference that you invite them to come and discuss. But if I thought that if it was to do with affairs of Africa, it's Obama who should have come to Africa, not African leaders going to America. And also have these very leaders assess the situation that now that you've come from America, can we sit and assess, has it been so helpful? What impact is it having on us? And I was also very disappointed that on that invitation, all those African leaders that were invited, no one came to say no. They all said yes. Now, if we find a situation of where African leaders are just kneeling before America, the so-called America, you're just kneeling for... In fact, to me, I believe these are leaders that are serving selfish interests. And these are not interests that are going to help us as citizens of given African countries. So to me, I believe it was a total mess. We should try to reconcile what kind of leadership we need, especially with the youth to take a month and see the way forward. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, because now you qualify. I'm so honored to be here, listen to a great thinker, the one I've been longing for, to see. Professor, because there are many professors there. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. My name is James Kashaya. Yes. Mr. Chairman, the President of US, you, the President of Africa, come here and tell me what you do in your house. come. You African, come and tell me what you do in your house. Then you will see the sweeper, the cleaner, all of them going to report to the chief imperialist. Shame. It was the shame and the shame for African leaders. Is there an African leader who can invite these so-called great people? It's a shame. You know, one time, Mr. Chairman, when I was somewhere in Nairobi, there was a certain professor who told us that what they call a man is not just possessing biological manhood. What they call a man is the legacy you are leaving behind. Now, what kind of legacy are these African leaders are going to leave behind? Inviting them for a photo in the White House, and we are happy. Others went with daughters, others with girlfriends, and you saw them very happy that they are reached in the White House. There was no talk apart from enjoying the tour, and they don't have even good food. One time I was in US, 2 days I was starving. There is no food at all. Uganda, Africa, we are gifted because we have fresh food. What are you doing? Bread? Is that the food? Anyway, we are coming. We are just in the conclusion, Mr. Chairman. US is facing a serious political and economic isolation. This is the challenge. Political and economic isolation in the whole world. So to regain its glory, they are trying to stop you who don't think that they can be part of you. Who doesn't know that the American empire is collapsing? The Asian empire is now the one dominating in the African politics. So you Americans, our fellow Americans, you brother Obama from a man from the Luo, shame on you. You came to us just near here and you do not come to your country. What are you telling us? Now you new leaders, this is the time to say no to the new wave of neocolonialism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm by the name Agnes Masakana. I'm privileged to see my father's teacher, Professor Hammond. Yeah. Like I've told you my name, I'm from Makerere University. I'm doing a bachelor's in ethics. That our fathers fought for us out of colonialism. We are now in neo-colonialism and modern slavery. We just have to think of a way how to move out of this particular cave. Treating Africans like they don't have things to think for themselves. You remember before demarcating African states to make Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, we had our cultures, whereby we ruled ourselves based on culture, beliefs, and you realize that there was harmony on the continent of Africa. It's not that I'm trying to drive Africans to think in a backward way, but as you're trying to adopt these particular things of capitalism, socialism, whatsoever, I think Africans should think of a way to, African youth should think of a way to get together to fight for the peace of Africa. Not in a military way. I don't think it's the best way, because we realize that most of the governments that have taken over power in African different countries have failed to move out of power. Take an example of what is happening here in Uganda. You know, if I tell the government that is in power came in peacefully, where any other state would be, I think we would have new leadership to see a change in our political progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, we are going to have Ngomchana speak.
An America needs 3 words to satisfy his stomach. Without satisfying the consumption of America, we need 3 words. 3 empty words. These plus some other 2 words which are not available as of now. So the current world cannot satisfy them. and they have because they overeat, and they have realized that. So they have occupied literally the whole world. They occupy all the oceans. They occupy access to most of the sea routes. In Asia, you know, this China talking about, China is under siege via Taiwan. I'm told that the past 15 minutes of invasion by China, more than 60% of the force will be wiped out. They have occupied Japan. They are occupying South Korea. The Korean is heavily mined, more than 300,000 mines. So it's worth, and they are ready for that war. They are investing in that war. With this short period of time, I would love to request Professor Mahmoud Hamdan help me and study this. The USA consulting firm called the RAND Corporation and its doctrine that where there is a minority that is militant, use that minority to subjugate the majority by arming it and allow it, give it freedom to do as pleases. So what are you seeing in Rwanda? What are you seeing in Burundi, in Congo? The Banyamulenge and then their neighbors, the other end, if you talk about them by their ethnicity, they will charge you with the genocide. They think about their relatives who came from here, these Dinkas from their shores, but don't get angry. Arm them, let them do as they please and subjugate the majority. Now, of course, this is not intended with democracy, because if you allow democracy, if you allow resolution of conflict, then they will be thrown out of power. But that has even been narrowed now in our current case to family. Kenya is going to be dominated for the next 50 years by a family. And so is the trend we are having in Uganda. I know the networks that are being built for a family. So the only way you can uproot this is not through massage. No, they do massage in a sauna. The only way you can uproot this and survive the Americans is to earn military, is to go military. Fortunately enough, the arms are now available because they simply drop. They are not careful in dropping arms. You must acquire that knowledge and then defend yourself. What is in China, Professor Mahmoud Hamdan? Market for poor people. The purchasing capacity of France far beats that of China. And by the way, they want to do production, and they are running out of resources. Who has the resources? Africa. The only reason why China is still surviving in Africa because it allows heads of states or presidents in Africa to do as they please. America and Europe had the other element of democracy and human rights that were controlled by individuals. Now they are getting controlled by those who own industries because of recession and economic problems, and they are now trying to shift their thinking that you can be a dictator, you can kill, you can have mass graves in Congo, in Burundi, etc. as you may please, provided you sign for us contracts and you give to us what is under your soil. And that can't come when you are alive. Forget about it. It can only come when you are dead and you will be exterminated through military means. You will be exterminated through biological weapons. We now have diseases that are only the preserve of Africa. You have heard of Ebola, Uganda, Ebola Congo kills more than 96. Ebola Nigeria and some other places there kills. It's right. The rate is right, and you can't hear it in USA. Have you had Ebola in USA? Which state? Where have you had Ebola in Israel? Can it fly there? But even when their embassies are here, our grasshoppers can't fly there. You check when we have got grasshoppers here. They can't run in their compounds. It's a little bit more serious, and you cannot solve it through peaceful means. You can only solve it through military means. The question is that we must mobilize ourselves to the hill, we must acquire the skill, and we must raise our consciousness. We must mobilize to the hill and oppose these pharaohs, not through speeches, but through war.
Okay. When Professor Hamdan actually talked about military as the cause of the US-Africa summit, I agreed with him and the rest, and of course Charles Omongson and the rest. But my analysis is on the political structuring, how politics in Africa after the colonialists had left were structured. This, and I'm happy that it is evident that statehood in Africa is collapsing. Because because of this misconception called democracy. The Americans are getting actually ashamed for having championed a system that cannot work in a post-colonial time. Yes, Americans were colonized, you are aware, by Britain. Gained its independence, 1776. But the democracy they introduced was almost the same as the one which is in China. It is the minority that are still in control of power and directing the destiny of that country, not the hopeless and stupid majority. Yes, it is up bottom, not bottom up. And that's why China stuck to that. The Americans never wanted that political system to thrive in China because they realized that it was going to make it a strong nation in the world. They wanted to introduce this bogus system called the peasant system, where the so-called majority who don't know where they are going actually having the so-called mandate to determine for the destiny of the continent and the countries. This is really calculated to destroy, and it has reached its limits of destruction. Now they are calling these people now to go military, as the professor suggested. Because of 1 second, yeah, 1 second, Chairman. In other words, you can see that even now leaders in Africa are now fearing competition. If competition is the benchmark, is the real reason why democracy exists, are you fearing it? Thank you very much.
So that everybody will say something. So, gentlemen and ladies, my appeal to you is that let us provide solutions. You know, it is very easy for us to judge when you're at hindsight. When you're on the sidelines, it's very easy to pass judgment without providing solutions. I'm coming, sir. Professor Mamdan, and maybe the rest, should be in position to answer this better than I. I've noticed one thing. When you look at African problems, we normally blame the leaders. It's natural. But the question should be, what is my role in the failure of the state? Professor Mamdan, you've taught in America, you've taught in Columbia University, and you've taught at Makerere University. I've noticed one thing when it comes to African middle class, comparative to the Western middle class. Our level of thinking is kind of slightly below. That's why you see in our leaders. You know, a sheep can only thrive in a sheep country. A sheep cannot rule in a country where there are lions. Our leaders, we blame them, they are a reflection of our society. So to what extent, Professor Mamdan and the rest of the discussants, Africans' problems due to the leaders or as a result of Africans being ignorant and incapable of doing anything?
My name is Mohammed. I'm a lawyer in town. I think Africa doesn't need China or the USA, but it needs markets. Because when you look at the two giants, what they are grappling for from Africa is commerce, compared to prior, during the COVID, it was politics. At the sphere of influence it wants to carve out is basically to sustain its ailing economy, for the case of the US, and thriving economy for the case of China right now, which is devoid of resources. So Africa has its own resources. What it needs is, one, take care of your house, put systems in place to make sure that you harness your resources well, and then you sell to each and every country. Because what we have, which and everyone needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngabirano. I want to thank Professor Mamdani and all the speakers and all of us who have contributed for what you have said. In his book, Decolonizing the Mind, Ngugi wa Thiong'o puts out the problem of Africa. It's a small book, and I'm surprised at the way that he did it from his literal point of view. But the problems that we face are like how you have two ants put in a glass, and instead of figuring out how to get out of that glass, they start to fight one another for space within that small glass. And that's how these artificial African states are. brother touched upon it, the very first person to speak, Salon. That is the crux of where we are. These states were meant to be dysfunctional. They're doing exactly the way they were supposed to. Why have we not taken the courage to say, you know what? While the Europeans come here and say, you know what, Uganda stops here, Kenya starts here. And literally separated families in the process. Can we develop the courage to say, let us define our borders by our own self? Can we do it ourselves? Can we say, this is institutes an education system and not keep one that is defined by other people? That's where we need to develop courage. And that courage is not easy, but we can do the collective courage. That's the crux of the matter that we need to. Otherwise, some of the summits will continue to happen, yes, Obama will meet over. But if you have not defined yourself by your own parameters, then you'll continually be prone to be exploited and used by others. Thank you.
So I have a belief that most of you are here today are going to do the same thing the African leaders are doing today. The question which should run in their mind, how to utilize this opportunity. Because I believe the military is an institution of discipline. Where I know there's an order. How do you use the military to defend the nation? I rest my case.
I'm called Win Arthur from Makerere University. For me, when I saw African leaders, including our president, going there, I thought I didn't really do not understand why they were going there. And I was actually also wondering what they were going to discuss that we actually don't know. Because if they were to discuss business, it is the same usual thing. Security is the same usual thing. Democracy is the same usual thing. It only reminded me of the time when our headmaster used to call teachers to call the parents to come to school. The thing was almost like a headmaster calling parents or calling, LCs or something like that to go and for him to caution them of certain things that they might actually be doing wrong. But one thing I've noticed is that the Europeans, the Americans, and the British have real bright people as the leaders. On the other side, for us in Africa here, we have drugs, we have people who don't measure up to the intellect of the white people. And when our leaders actually go there, they are manipulated, they are given a carrot and a promise that if you remain a person to my interest, then you go with this carrot or with this bread back home. But if you do not, then I can cause your transfer. Thank you so much.
Court Justice. Yes. The first thing I would like to acknowledge that America championing democracy was very fortunate to Africans in the first place, because we shouldn't be obsessed with opposing America. We should also look at the systems it put in place, and it should have been a permanent system of living peace, as Professor Mamdan said. Secondly, the problem we need to identify is that we are lacking the independence of mind and patriotism. We have the leaders that do not represent the interests of the people. That's why when these leaders go to America or any other continent, they will dance to the tunes, because they are looking for all opportunities to make sure that they have the mechanism to maintain them in power. So what what we are lacking is patriotism and independence of mind. We need to have the leaders that represent all the people. So for those that are advocating for war, are those that think perhaps they have been frustrated. Thank you very much.
I'm Stephen Kasinye. I believe that God loves Africa. That's why we have been able to be around. Otherwise, these Western powers, they don't like Africans at all. But also, we have been, they trade our slaves and our leaders. When you see 50 African leaders lashing to sit with Obama, then they come back with nothing. They have failed to solve the internal problem, the African problems. I think the solution is one. Those who are young, those who are in leadership, even those who are already aged. We should unite as Africa and sit down to see how we can solve our problems, the wars, to suffocate those who are trying to export, to bring war again. That's only through peace we can achieve. And we're already achieving it. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you very much, Lawrence Okware. It's a privilege to be here today. And I thank the previous speakers all. But to me, as far as the topic is concerned, the issue of trade, I really don't think Africa will really benefit from that summit. Because given the mindset of our own leaders, issue of corruption, self-interest, greed. So, and also in addition, I concur with Professor Mamdan when he said that America's strategy now is really to make rise Africa. And this is really evidenced in most of our African countries. And as time goes on, in fact, we are really headed to a terrible situation. If Africans cannot solve their own issues through consensus and peaceful resolution, we are headed for a quagmire situation.
Prepare for war in order to have peace. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, young people especially who are here, I'm happy to see that most of you qualify to be leaders. Tomorrow is yours. You must get strategically positioned, you must reposition yourself to be ready to take on leadership. Thank you.
Now, today, not tomorrow. Okay, it's like this. I'm actually disappointed. And my recommendation is that ignore what is happening inside our country here, even what is happening out there. I wish you could close yourself in and try to think, what is this African cause? Is there something called an African? That do Africans have a cause to die for, to fight for, to make sure it happens in your lifetime? What is it? What does it include? What are its ingredients? Okay? Now, with that, then be able to reflect. So how will you as young people, that's what I'm saying, forget the leadership that's there now. Are we investing in agriculture? In areas of our comparative advantage, so that we can trade before even you go global, before you go to AGOA? Are you trading here? Are we maintaining our leadership in this area, in the Great Lakes region, in the Horn, in the SADC sub-region? Our leaders investing there? No. Are they investing in education? What kind of education? Our comparative advantage that Uganda used to hold. Are we investing? Do we take people health of a healthy nation as a wealthy nation? Nothing. They're letting us down. They're just wasting our time. They're just occupying space, and they're preventing better Ugandans from sitting in those positions, better Africans in sitting in those positions. So before you go global, are we local? I wish you could come with that concept of local. Let's go local. And who are major trading partners in this region? Does the balance sheet balance with America, with Europe? I think that's one. Two, what is stopping Africans that they are talking about integration? The same old song, which is narrow-minded nationalism, fighting against regional integration. What is stopping East African capital, Kampala, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, Kigali, Bujumbura, ceding power to Arusha? Take us to as tourists. Ministers go to meet, they come back. Presidents go to meet, they come back. Heads of technical people go to meet, they come back. Arusha has no power. When shall we integrate? For this friend of mine who's saying these borders must go. So think these leaders are not doing it. That's why young people need to come with that vision and make sure they go. After all, you are the majority, and you go in and implement that. 3. So may God bless all of us.
Thank you very much. I have 2 thoughts. One is that I'm impressed by the fact that the majority of the people sitting here had a chance to contribute. Often the experience is that one person talks on and on and on and on, 1 hour, and a few other people have a chance to talk. So the gathering where the majority talks is a very positive development. I'm pleased to be present to experience. I also, in line with Mr. Kakon, and my suggestion is this: talking is good, but eventually talking has to be informed. And informed talking requires that we combine study with talking.
Thank you very much, Professor. Now, briefly, we shall get your vote of thanks from the challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also had my views, but I'm not going to state any of them. I've just been asked to have a vote of thanks towards our eminent guest, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani. We really thank you for honoring this invitation. It might seem something small, but when you sit with one of the world's leading intellectuals and you give a view before him and he also gives his views, you must count yourself lucky, really. And you should clap for that. Also allow me to recognize Dr. Chimera, Honorable Protocol, our usual guest, Professor Kaponge, Mr. Charles Mushana. And then we should also clap for Mr. Nwabin. You know, Mr. Nwabin is a person of work, but when he sits there and doesn't want to say anything, we also have to recognize that. Thank you very much. So, I think that's it. Let's meet next time. 2 Fridays away, okay? Thanks.